We are so excited to be here today with our next guest. He is an author who has an incredible book that is out. We couldn't be more excited. It's called Madden and Summerall: How They Revolutionized NFL Broadcasting. His name is Rich Podolsky, and he is here with us today on the forum. Welcome, Rich. It's so nice to have you here. We are so excited about this book.
Thank you, Florence. Thank you, James.
Now, Rich, what I loved about it, and like I said, I've talked about my father went to the original games in 1960. The Raiders were longtime Raider fans, got to meet Madden a couple times. And we are just really excited. And a lot of the things, let's go back to the history. First of all, the one thing, because Pat Summerall, obviously a huge name, talk about, because most people seem to think that God created the world in the year 2000 and they don't really look at much at history anymore. But talk about Summerall and Brookshire, how they literally revolutionized a lot of what modern NFL broadcasts are right today.
Well, Tom Brookshire used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Pat Summerall played for the New York Giants, and they hated each other on the field. But they were thrown together by NFL Films in the early days of the NFL in the 60s. They wound up doing a weekly highlight show on NFL Films together, and they really got along great. They had such a great time whenever they went out. And in in the 60s, Summerall was an analyst, not a play-by-play guy. All the way up to 1974, he was the number one analyst, along with Joe Buck's dad, Jack Buck, doing the play-by-play for CBS. Excuse me. And he got called in by the new president of CBS, Bob Wessler. Sorry about that. And Wessler said, "You two guys sound too much alike. I got to split you up." And Summerall said, "Well, if you're going to split us up, I'd like to try play by play." And Wessler said, "Okay, who do you want to work with?" And he said, "Brookshire." And they were working a game 3 days later, and before the year was up, they were doing a Super Bowl together. They clicked so great. It was like listening to two guys at a bar who were really football experts, but having a great time watching a game instead of a static play-by-play announcer and an analyst trying to do things that public really didn't care about. And when they went out to a game every weekend, they just party all weekend long. It was still the kind of the Mad Men days, and they drank their way all through the weekend. And it was amazing they were sober for Sunday games. And they had a lot of problems when they got back to New York after the um, Super Bowl in 1978. They had a very bad game, especially Brookshire. CBS had a new president then named Van Gordon Sauter, and Sauter said, their reputation is just too bad. We have to split them up. I don't want that kind of drinking to be known for our company. And Summerall was looking for a new partner, and he worked with several people. And right around that time, in 1981, I'm sorry, 1979, John Madden came to CBS Sports. I was working there as a writer for the weekend shows, the NFL Today, CBS Sports Spectacular, and I was one of the only guys who knew Madden. I used to cover the Miami Dolphins in the mid 70s, and I found him to be tremendously fascinating to talk to after a game or to interview before a game. He was about the most interesting guy I ever talked to in football because he talked about things about life, not just what do you do on 3rd and 1. So Madden was interesting. He was informative, and he was really the type of guy that you would think would be great in the booth. But when CBS hired him, they didn't give him any coaching. They didn't tell him what to do, and he had to learn on his own. And the first year, he was pretty close to terrible because all he would do is tell his stories, and he had lots of good stories, but he would go over the line where the play-by-play guy has to set up the next play, and he was getting into the territory of the play-by-play guy, and he knew he had to cut down, and they weren't sure if they were going to bring him back after that.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people online said Madden was a natural. He was great from the start, but like you said, he really struggled at the start, and they literally some wanted to fire him, wanted to get rid of him. So it's not that he was like this magical star. He really worked his way and learned what to do because I think someone said it best. He was kind of that person that could talk football to the fan in a way that the fan wasn't disrespected, that they felt that they were being talked, instead of talked at, they were talked with. It was like a family member talking to them. And that's why they related so well.
Exactly. So what happened was some executives did want to not renew his contract. He only did 4 games that first year, and by a quirk of luck, the 4th game was with Summerall because Brookshire had a thing for his daughter that weekend. And Summerall thought Madden showed promise, but I listened to the game, and Madden was just kind of dull. I mean, he told some stories, but he wasn't the personality that we grew to know. And so the season ended. That game with Summerall was around Thanksgiving time. The season ended. CBS has the Super Bowl that we're in Los Angeles. They have this big luncheon to host for the radio and television affiliates and advertisers in the media. 500 people in the ballroom of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And there's a big dais there, and Brent Musburger is at one end hosting. Pete Rozelle is at the other end. He was the commissioner. And in between were 3 former coaches who were working for CBS who were Super Bowl winners, George Allen, Hank Stram, and John Madden. So they throw it open for questions. And somebody asks the 3 of them, well, would you ever go back to coaching? And George Allen hems and haws and really doesn't answer the question. And then it's Hank Stram's turn. And Hank Stram was the number 2 team for CBS at that time. And he said he was really happy doing. He really got in the groove of working with. At that time, it was Jack Buck, and he really loved it, and he never thought he'd go back to coaching. And then it was Madden's turn. The other 2 guys just sat in their seats. Madden gets up, walks behind the people on the dais, all the way down to the other end, where Pete Rozelle is, and he puts his hand on Pete Rozelle's shoulder and he squeezes, and he says, people ask me all the time what I think about NFL officiating. And Rozelle cracks up, breaks out in laughter, and Madden goes into a 5-minute routine of what happens when it's 4th and inches, and you send your best back into the line, and then instead of the ref closest to the tackle marking the ball, some guy 30 yards away at the end line comes running in with his arm in the air And Madden says, if it puts his right foot down, you make it. You got the first down. If he puts his left foot down, you didn't make it, and you're out of luck, and you're worried about getting fired for going for it on fourth down. And he had everybody in hysterics. And and the whole place, all these big shots, suddenly see the entertainment value of a John Madden. Not a guy who's trying to fit into a format. So, as I wrote in the book, they didn't see him as just another coach trying to be an analyst. They finally saw him for what he could be.
Yeah. Reminds me of his story with the Rob Lytle fumble when I think it was the side judge that was way away from the play said it wasn't a fumble. Everybody else did. Even the Broncos were walking off the field. He said, "How could a guy in another region of the area say it's a fumble?" He said he's saying, and now I'm being told again I can't win a big game. So your job's on the line. You're nervous. You're worried. It's his story, I think, had a lot of truth to it. So what also are some things when Summerall and Madden, it was just kind of a breath of fresh air. Why do you think young people became so entrenched? Like I know a lot of us, we love them together. Why do you think they connected with all ages?
Well, before I get to that, I want to touch on the fact that the next year when they renewed Madden, he worked 6 games with Gary Bender, who was an excellent
Yo,
play-by-play guy,
yeah.
and they worked really well together. But the new president of CBS Sports brought in a guy named Terry O'Neill, who was the former producer of Monday Night Football on ABC, to run all of NFL production for CBS. And O'Neill wanted to put Madden with Summerall, but the boss, Sauter, said, I want Vin Scully to be his partner. Vin Scully is an elegant broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
O'Neill argued that Scully is definitely a great, elegant broadcaster, but all he wants to do is talk. And all Madden wants to do is talk. And the viewer will be wrung out by halftime.
Yeah.
Summerall was a perfect fit, and he eventually got his way. Summerall became his partner, and they started clicking right away.
Mm-hmm.
So to get to your point, why do the young people, they identify him with Madden because he identifies with all people. He identifies with the kids. Terry O'Neill started this practice of hiring young broadcast associates to learn how to be producers and directors. And in the beginning, they were runners or doing graphics and things like that. And a couple of them were working with Madden and Summerall. So they come to get to Washington, D.C. for a Redskins game. Excuse me. And when they get to their hotel, there's a note for Madden. Ethel Kennedy, the widow of Robert Kennedy, who was shot years earlier, and JFK's brother. Ethel Kennedy wants to meet you, wants to have lunch or dinner with you this weekend. And this young kid, Mike Arnold, says to him, geez, John, are you going to have dinner with Ethel Kennedy? And John thinks for a second, and he says, no, I'm going to have Mexican food with you guys. That's the type of guy he was. He wanted to just hang out. And I'm sorry about my throat.
That's okay.
It's okay.
So, they really clicked right away. And 6 months later, they do their first Super Bowl in Detroit, of all places, Super Bowl 16. And they had a great game. I remember that Dick Ebersol from NBC, was the producer of Saturday Night Live that year. He had called me. We were friends. He had called me and said, "I want John Madden to be the host of Saturday Night Live the week after the Super Bowl." So, and John wasn't flying; he was taking the train. So they had to take the train back with him. They sent a camera crew. They got stuck in Buffalo in a snowstorm. They almost
Oh,
didn't make it back to New York. But he was great hosting Saturday Night Live. And right around that time, the Miller Lite commercials started. Now, light beer was a new idea in those days. And having John Madden as one of their guys selling the beer was a great idea because he was just a regular Joe. And if you remember the commercial or go back and Google it, you know, Madden comes bursting through the wall like it's, just opening a door. It comes bursting through the wall or bursting through the front door. And he said, "Now, let me tell you, I like light beer and, you, whatever the reason." But it was so likable. And in
yeah.
fact, when Terry O'Neill asked Sauter why he wanted Madden as his number one analyst, he said, "Well, have you seen any of his games?" Now, none of his games were going back to New York. And Sauter said, "Oh, no, no, no. I know him from the Miller Lite commercials." And
Yeah.
that's what sold him. He said,
That was They were huge at that time.
Yes.
Sauter said he's a raconteur. He could tell stories. He could talk to anybody.
Now
And
the Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Rich. Go.
I was just going to say, one of the things that made the partnership work so much is as a play-by-play guy, Pat Summerall was a guy who really valued his words. He didn't want to fill up the air with a bunch of talk. He just set the down and the distance and the tight ends on the right and the wide receivers on the left and what the defense, and then he let the play go and called the play and let Madden go right until the next snap of the ball. And he never tried to steer Madden to talk about somebody. Madden took control of the broadcast that way. And that was totally new in NFL broadcasting, that the analyst became the big star of the broadcast. I mean,
Yeah, Summerall was so giving in that way that he kind of put the spotlight off him and just let him shine. And I think that was something that made them so great. That you knew one guy was really he Summerall really got it. He understood Madden and he understood how important he was to the broadcast. But in doing that, he became very important in it. And I think that's why they were such a great team.
yeah, they were together 21 years. And when you heard Pat Summerall come on at 1 p.m. in the afternoon with the little tease for that day's game, you hear his voice. You knew it was going to be a big game.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was the voice of the NFL.
oh
And
yeah.
the NFL loved Summerall. I mean, Summerall was a Renaissance man. Excuse me. Um, he played 5 different sports in high school. He was a great tennis player without having a lesson or a coach. He won the Florida State Junior Championships in 1946. Uh, he hitchhiked his way all the way from northern Florida to Fort Lauderdale, and he beat a guy named Herbie Flam. Herbie Flam was 18. Summerall was 16. He beat Flam 4 years. 4 years later, Flam played for the U.S. National Championship, which is now known as the U.S. Open. That's
Yeah.
how Summerall was in a sport that he didn't go into. He
Yeah.
played basketball and football in college, and when they needed a kicker, he said, "I can kick too," and that's what he became known for as a giant. And then
Yeah.
he was one of the first guys to work all these Super Bowls from Super Bowl one on. He worked Super Bowl one on the sidelines, and then he became the analyst, and then he became the play-by-play guy. and he was totally unselfish. And
Yeah.
he was totally, the kids who work with him said Summerall was not just a great player, a great broadcaster, but he was kind to everyone, not just to John Madden, but to all the little guys.
Yeah, I think the thing that I remember out about him is it seemed like people just liked to be around him. He was a great guy. He was kind. He was giving. He didn't demand the spotlight or think he was a star. He kind of treated, and that's how John was. They treated everyone the same. Now, you said in the book, I remember a part of the book, you said you lost track of John for a while and you didn't see him for a long time. And you felt that this book was almost kind of, you didn't physically get a chance to say goodbye to him. That part of this book, the passion behind it, was that it was kind of a goodbye letter to him. When was the first time you thought about writing this book, and what was the passion behind it totally?
Well, I let me get some water. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, take your time.
I was having lunch with a friend who used to work at CBS with me named Janice Delson, who was really, she had some great funny comments in the book, going all the way through it. And we were talking about Madden and Summerall. She said she wanted to write a Substack and tell some of the stories that she knew. She worked very closely with them. She was like the head of talent for CBS Sports. And she had some great stories about working with them, especially Summerall, which involved a bit of drinking as well. Um, and, I started thinking that my previous book, You Are Looking Live, became so popular about the people that uh, were the stars of CBS in the 70s and the 80s, that I had this relationship with John Madden starting in 1973 that it lasted for years and years. When I left the broadcast business in the 80s and I went to work on Wall Street, yeah, I did kind of lose track of John, but he lived in a famous building on the west side of New York. Um, I can't think of the name of it right now, but my wife and I were walking along on the west side, and we ran into John. Oh, it was called the Dakota, and
Mm.
Mm.
he had a big apartment in the Dakota, and he was really proud of it. And he said, "Hey, Rich, oh, so great to see you." Um, he dragged us over to show us his apartment. It was like a kid with a new toy, and that was the last time I saw him. And I had done a lot of things with him personally. I got him on the Tomorrow Show after Johnny Carson. He took me to a Miller Lite reunion at Tavern on the Green after that show, which was one of the most amazing nights of my life with all those ex-players.
Oh
And
yeah.
and one and that first Super Bowl weekend, we're at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. He said, "Rich, I'm meeting an old friend in Hernando's, which was a cocktail lounge." He said, "I want you to come and meet him too." And the old friend was John Robinson
Oh.
of Southern Cal and later the LA Rams. And they were boyhood pals, Madden and Robinson. And they start telling me, Robinson said, "Well, I was the left end, John was the right end, and John was one of the fastest guys on the team despite his size." I mean, Madden was 6'4" and 270 pounds. And so he was kind to me, and he appreciated the loyalty. So when I realized that I hadn't seen him for years, I always felt like I was still close to him. And then I heard that Fox was going to do this all Madden special around the time he turned 85. And I wrote him a letter. And I was certain he'd get back to me because I had his home address. And we shared so many great moments together. And just around the time the letter got there, it was right after the All Madden special, he passed away. And I was really saddened by that. And this was my way of trying to say goodbye to John, writing this book.
Yeah. And it's a great tribute to two of the greatest, if not the greatest, announcers of all time. And they revolutionized NFL, and it just made it fun. And we remember John and so fondly. And shout out to Amy Trask and all those that follow us that are friends of ours, because it's just the Raiders. The tradition, they've ruined the tradition lately, but when John Madden, Al Davis, the Bill King, the announcer, and you had Villapiano and all these crazies, Ken Stabler, it was just a magical time. And on the screen, Summerall and Madden, I watched games that I didn't even care who the team was when they were announcing. I tried to get, like you said, you knew that was the game to watch. So Rich, we wish we could talk to you so much longer, but we know you got a busy day today.
Yes.
And we thank you so much for spending time with us. The book, we are going to be marketing, you guys, on all our social media platforms. Get it. The only thing is I read it in one night. I could not put it down, so I didn't sleep last week. I just had to read it, and it was amazing. And if you love football and the announcers and the history of it, this is the book. And also look up Rich's former books, because I've read this is his third book I've read. He is a great writer and a historian, and that's what I love, because a lot of these new people, especially national, these all-time lists, and they end at the year 2005. Come on. You got to know what's going on in the history. ESPN, all these people, go back to the roots, because that's really what tells the story. Thank you so much, Rich, for spending time with us. We are very grateful to you.
Thank you, guys.